BP had two big goals: help the Gulf recover and learn from what happened so we could be a better, safer energy company.
Using algae to form biofuels, we're not competing with the food supply.
At Chevron, if we can't do it right, we won't do it at all.
If you were to watch TV these days, you'd think big oil companies are starting to clean up their act by focusing on clean energy. In 2012, 94% of carbon emissions in the US came from burning fossil fuels. According to the EPA, 1 barrel of carbon-based crude oil will produce an average of 0.43 metric tons of CO2 emissions when burned. That's almost half of a typical two-story house.
You turn on the TV and you see an ad and you see, oh, everything's great and everything is so wonderful. And when you spend hundreds of millions of dollars on that advertising campaign, of course people believe it.
What do they want us to see? And what is the reality? And why would they want us to think something different than what's really going on? In this episode of Youthfuel, we travel to Texas and Louisiana to investigate big oil and their green marketing. I'm Vanessa Black. I'm a filmmaker and an activist, and I'm traveling around America to find out more about our biggest polluters and climate change deniers. We know the oil industry is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. However, if you look at their advertising, they spend a lot of energy trying to convince us to think otherwise.
At Shell, we are developing more efficient fuels that can help us to get the most from our energy resources.
The place where I want to be.
What do you think of the company BP?
BP? From what I've heard about it, that they're a clean, like, save the earth type of company when it comes to chemicals and gas and all that stuff.
But the reality is, Chevron, Shell, ExxonMobil, and BP are oil companies that pump carbon pollution into the atmosphere and endanger life on our planet, and make billions of dollars in profit while doing so. So why is it that people think these companies are environmentally friendly? It's called greenwashing. Disinformation to present an eco-friendly, responsible public image. Many of us remember the Exxon Valdez spill in Alaska, but more recently, we remember the BP oil spill in 2010.
This is the biggest man-made disaster that directly affects one of the most productive estuaries in the world.
It doesn't seem like 25 years after the Exxon Valdez disaster that we've gotten any better ways to clean up oil when it's spilling. You know, we're drilling deeper and deeper, but when it comes to dealing with a catastrophe like this, we haven't improved the technologies.
Deepwater Horizon was the largest accidental marine oil spill in petroleum industry's history, and more than 200 million gallons of crude oil is estimated to have been pumped into the Gulf over the course of 87 days. A federal court ruling in September of this year found BP was grossly negligent, and they could face additional billions in fines. We sat down with the locals to see how it's costing them.
I mean, we're still seeing instances where oil is washing ashore. There's still tar balls out there. You know, so this situation, this dilemma that we're in, it isn't long and gone, it's still happening. BP
released this statement on their website. Field notes from 2010, 2011, and 2012 do not document any visibly oiled oyster beds.
Water quality is okay. In reference to the health of the production and the small oysters, that's not there. So if BP's trying to claim that everything's fine, it's bullshit.
They got enough money to spend, they can paint their own picture the way that they want to. You know, so as far as being friendly to the environment, I mean, we're part of the environment and they certainly haven't been friendly to us.
Dirty stories like this are radically different than the rosy depictions we see in their advertisements.
Outside of the Gulf, a lot of people think that BP is an environmentally friendly company.
That's news to me. First off, I didn't even know that.
BP needs to put their money where their mouth is and actually put that money towards restoring the Gulf instead of, you know, spending millions and, you know, maybe even tens and hundreds of millions on PR efforts.
Even knowing all the facts about pollution, top oil companies seem to be spending more money on commercials about renewables rather than following through with the ads that they are saying. In 2010, Chevron launched their We Agree campaign, describing Chevron's leadership in development of renewable energy. However, the company is now dialing down the program's funds and have encouraged staffers to look for jobs elsewhere. Shell ran a feel-good ad called Let's Go, implying their investments in green technology. But the fact is they're devastating the planet by oil drilling and refining. We called BP to set up an interview.
I've done a lot of research on your sustainability, and I would love to just set up a call.
But they declined to be on camera. After some email correspondence, they wouldn't answer all of our questions, including the ones we wanted answered the most.
If we're going to continue to, push the boundaries when it comes to drilling, then we also need to invest in safety and invest in research to make sure that these things can be done without destroying the environment, without, impacting our community.
We're a 138-year-old business, a fifth-generation family operation, and I want my son to be able to do it.
We won't be fooled by oil's green ads, and we won't be tricked into believing that if we can't see it, it's not there. Just like the Gulf might look like it's back to normal, there are in fact environmental impacts happening daily that you do not see. When it comes to climate change, harmful pollution isn't always visible. Understanding these impacts is the first step for a cleaner future. Join the growing movement to solve the climate crisis and fuel a cleaner future.